I mean, it wasn't a surprise seeing that Dortmund was playing very well. It was a bit surprising to see them dominate for large stretches of the game, and in comparison to Real
Yeah.
Madrid, the kind of chances they were able to find.
Two statistics that will blow your mind though, because we talk about Real Madrid not having like the best of seasons, but in the Champions League this
Yeah.
season, they've only been behind 7% of their entire game time. So out of 1,290 minutes that they've played, they've only been behind for 90 minutes. That's
Wow,
insane statistic. More
that's crazy.
impressively, they went their entire campaign without losing a game. This
Yes, they
Champions
only.
League season, the entire
Oh
campaign
yeah,
without losing a game. And the
yeah.
entire season, Madrid has only lost 3 games in the entire season. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Beer Parlor on the Shaft podcast. My name is Andrews. I'm here with Erasmus to give you a reaction to the UCL final that happened yesterday in London at Wembley. I mean, Erasmus, we had a quick chat the day before to sort of make predictions for the final, and then you made a call about Dortmund. You would wish that they could, like your heart is with them, but then your mind is with Madrid. And I was sort of the opinion that I didn't see Madrid even as favorites throughout the competition. Therefore, I would stick with them because I'd bet on them throughout. I mean, how did you see the final? First, let's start with Dortmund specifically. How did you see their setup, their tactical approach, and the way in which they executed their approach to the game?
Yeah, thank you very much, Andrews. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to everyone who followed us, followed our insights for the final. Um,
Yeah,
I think for me, what happened yesterday was something which we expected. We've seen this script over and over and over again.
yeah,
It wasn't a surprise to think that, like, I mean, it wasn't a surprise seeing that Dortmund was playing very well. It was a bit surprising to see them dominate for large stretches of the game, and in comparison to Real
yeah,
Madrid, the kind of chances they were able to find. But it was quite clear that there was a lack in quality, especially across the front line for Dortmund. I think where they had a lot of strength was in defense, in being able to limit Real Madrid to um, just a few opportunities, and in midfield totally controlled the ball, like high pressing on Toni Kroos just to ensure that he's not dictating the game. So most of the game they had to rely on Kamavinga, who likes to
yeah,
progress the ball running rather than passing. But even then, he was able to find pockets of spaces between the Dortmund midfield and defense. But they could not utilize it. So I think Dortmund's strategy was spot on in terms of limiting the Real Madrid chances and in terms of catching them on the break and also using their
yeah,
nice passage of play to pin them back and create opportunities within the box. However, I think that their finishing was quite poor. It wasn't just the finishing, it was sometimes get the final pass and a bit of what we said yesterday in terms of having a fear that Real Madrid can always pounce was there for them, which meant
yeah.
that they had to be tracking back most of the time and they weren't too adventurous in putting a lot of numbers forward.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching the game, and even though you look at the first half, Dortmund dominating, I don't think the underlying numbers supported that dominance. Really, it was Madrid still having large portions of the possession, Madrid still having a higher pass accuracy. Dortmund had almost 10 shots, but just two of it were on target. They weren't really. I think the reason why people started feeling like they were dominating the game was because everybody was expecting a bulldozer game, like Madrid just walking over Dortmund. And Dortmund was putting up a good resistance performance. Therefore, the implication was that Madrid is underperforming and Dortmund is dominating the game. But I because I was listening to the commentary and it was like, oh, Madrid are struggling, Madrid are not coming out, they've been too passive. Even at the start of the second half, they were still not like pressing in terms of creating chances or scoring goals or threatening. So these guys were like, yeah, Dortmund will take their chances. Madrid are taking too long to kick in the game. And like you said, like with every single football fan out there, you were like, this team would come out, just wait for them, hold on, and they are going to hit you when you least expect it. And for me, every time those conversations about how dominant Dortmund were, I just went back to look at the underlying statistics, and I don't see that dominance reflecting. All I saw was people probably inflating their performance by basing on the expected performance versus the actual performance. The fact that Dortmund were performing way better than people expected probably created that impression that they were dominating. And the fact that Madrid were performing way less than people expected also created that impression that Madrid were the ones being pinned down. But if you really look at the underlying statistics, aside those two big chances that Dortmund missed, I do not think they were dominating the game in those specific ways that people were describing. But like you said, they weren't clinical enough. They didn't finish their chances, and then it definitely came back to bite them at the start of the second half, because everybody was anticipating that Madrid would come out of the halftime break flying out of the blocks, trying everything they could. But they still kept their composure. They made Dortmund feel as if they had a chance. They didn't really like attack. They were still composed, playing as if they actually now started the match and there was 90 minutes to go. And it was sometimes frustrating to watch. How did you feel within that period? And what do you think probably is a tactical understanding of why they came out second half and still there was no significant tactical change in their approach to the game?
Yeah, so I have a couple of thoughts in here. I think
Yeah,
Madrid, especially like this Carlo Ancelotti Madrid, is known for being calm in situation. They have very very experienced players, so I don't think they were phased. I think it was quite clear, even for the average person, that Dortmund was beginning to get a bit frustrated with their missed chances. Like
yeah,
some of their players didn't look too confident now moving forward, and their best player, which for me is Sancho, wasn't lighting up that way. And I think the way Dortmund play, they play better when they take more risk. They play much better when they take more risk.
yeah,
So I think in the first half they gave their all, especially after they smelt blood. You started seeing more of those forward runs.
yeah,
Players like Sabitzer who was running into the channels, but also tracking back and making sure that he stays on the opposing players. So by the second half, I think there was a bit of fatigue. I think what Madrid was able to do, or what I think they sought to do, was control the game more. Because within the first half, they
yeah,
lost control of the game. Jude Bellingham wasn't involved. He was supposed to be linking the attack to the, the the midfield to the attack. He wasn't getting involved in the game. So I think Madrid's plan was start controlling the ball a bit more, start controlling the frame of play, and that way you limit them, Dortmund, to the back. And I think it worked. In my opinion, it worked. They had a couple of chances. They didn't look like pure chances.
yeah,
They didn't look very dangerous, but they created a couple of chances, which I think was down to two things which I identified within the game. First, they were able to free up Toni Kroos. I think Sabitzer was tired because
yeah,
he was sitting on Toni Kroos. So Toni Kroos, what they did was just push him a bit up the field instead of letting him drop back to
yeah,
dictate play. So they pushed him a bit, and from there he was able to dictate the play much better with some of the crosses, some of his set piece play, and things like that. And I think that what helped with that was making sure that Vinicius Jr. was also starting out on the wide side and then putting Rodrigo back on
yeah,
the left side, because first half they tried to overcrowd the right the left side, yeah, the left side of the pitch, with
yeah,
Rodrigo and Vinicius Jr. playing together, but it meant that Dortmund could just press that side of the pitch and not worry about the other end. And that's why you saw Ian Martin moving into midfield. So in the second half, they
yeah,
stretched the pitch again. And then now, as the pitch was stretched, Toni Kroos was able to find more space up the field to create. So you could see Carvajal was now making some of those runs and then getting some chances to cross the ball into the box, scattered back, and things like that. So I think that's what they sought to do: gain more control of the game, be able to dictate play.
Yeah.
Did it help them create a lot of chances? Maybe not as much, because I still think that Dortmund was defensively solid, but you saw much more control in the second half from Real Madrid.
Yeah, I think obviously, I don't think Madrid like and ended this game with threatening chances. It was more of improving upon their attacking threat from the first half. And so you would see that they were getting more set pieces, more corners. In fact, that exact corner routine that led to the goal had happened just the corner that Madrid had prior to that one, right? And the header was over the, and prior to that, you had seen Madrid having a couple of free kicks, which forcing the saves out of the Dortmund keeper like a couple of times. And so clearly they were now having much more opportunities up the field. Like you'd say, even though they were not clear one-on-one or goal scoring opportunities, there were now chances that gave them the opportunity to aim at shots on target. Those two Toni Kroos free kicks that were saved, that corner that eventually was missed up the bar, and then the eventual first goal. And once the first goal happened, Dortmund was disorganized because it meant that they now had to start chasing the game. They now were forced to abandon that defensive discipline that they were using to play the game and now look for much more attacking threats. And that's exactly what Madrid is looking for. They had been disciplined all through this period when you were having all the field day in attack. And now they are getting the field day in attack, and you are forced to lose that discipline that you have. You are literally forced to abandon the discipline and chase the game with that one goal. And that's how come they had that second goal as well. Because if you look at the second goal, it was on a transition, that transition field, and the defensive organization was obviously haphazard at the time. Bellingham just had to do a one-time pass to Vinicius Jr. and then that goal was scored. And so I think it's more of Madrid staying disciplined, staying calm, and taking their chances. And if you look at a manager like Carlo Ancelotti, he's not the person who will tell you to fly out the blocks and chase a game, especially when it's nil-nil. Even when it's 2-0, these guys are playing as if it's nil-nil. How much more it's nil-nil, and the kind of discipline that they were playing with as well. But yeah, we'd go down a couple of names. But first of all, you mentioned Toni Kroos. Let's have a quick chat about him as well. He had his final game for Real Madrid. Obviously, he said he's retiring from international football. He's retiring from football entirely after the Euros. What do you think of him, and what do you think of his performance in the UCL final as well?
Yeah, Tony Cruz is a character that splits opinion. I think in more recent weeks or even the last couple of years, we've seen different sides of him, and much more appreciation of his gameplay and who he is. I mean, he's a player I've always respected, even when he was at Bayern. Like, I just didn't understand how Pep Guardiola let him go, but clearly from the stories after, he also wanted to go, amongst a couple of things. And with the job he does on the field, there are not a lot of players who can do that job. Like, the team plays through him. The team plays through him. So in the first half, when he wasn't having a good game, when he was being pinned backwards, you realize that Madrid couldn't create a lot. Vinicius had to be dropping down to pick up the ball, and obviously, the distance to goal increases, which means that the rate at which your speed can hit the opponent is generally reduced. So I think when he stepped up high up the pitch in the second half, he definitely was influencing the game with the accuracy of his passing, the kind of people that he can even find with his passes, and that's where you began to see the real Tony Cruz. In terms of him leaving, I think he's and the way he's approached it very casually. It's like when you are so rich and you just decide to retire,
Yeah,
which means that all this while you're just playing for the fun of it. He's bored. I think it just looks like he's bored, and he has already clearly stated that he wants to retire with Real Madrid, and that's why he's not going anywhere else. And I think with how the team is progressing, they need to find a replacement for him. Um, it doesn't look like they have a clear replacement for him. The only player I see very close to him in the world now is Enzo in terms of the accuracy of the passing and just picking up the ball and finding the different players. So he's someone that they are going to miss. But then also in terms of his character, what he brings to the dressing room and his
Yeah.
mentality, I think people miss that because this is a man with 6 Champions League titles. You don't get that by being a fluke.
Yeah, but I mean, he mentioned that his decision is also he's always had in his mind to retire at the peak of his football. He doesn't want to deteriorate and leave the game when nobody remembers him, and so he's leaving at a time when he chooses to leave, not because he has to leave by the deterioration of his game or by the fact that clubs don't want him anymore. So he's leaving on his own terms. And Carlo Ancelotti had a chat with him, and he said, we've tried everything we can to sway him off his decision. And he said, Toni Kroos is a bold person to be able to make the decision that he's made. Because, like you said, not many players would playing at this level. And there are discussions about Luka Modric still getting a 1 year contract from Real Madrid. And Toni Kroos, I think, is even much more energetic, much more fit than Luka Modric is. And so obviously, if Kroos wanted another contract at Madrid, he would have gotten that contract. The fact that Ancelotti says they've tried to convince him tells you probably they've made proposals about giving a 1 year extension. You just stay on the short term. But obviously, he's made up his decision, and I'm definitely sure football will miss him. In terms of replacements as well, I think it's going to be difficult to find a player his exact profile. The thing that Madrid has also has been known to do is also to find replacement for players, even if they are not exact like for like. Because I don't think if you look at
Yeah,
this Madrid team, they are they have like for like replacements in positions like the team that won the Champions League 3 years in a row. But this team is still a team of winners, right? So they tend to replace people in areas that can do an efficient job, not necessarily like for like in terms of technical capacity. And to find the likes of look Tony Cruz in a player is very very rare. You mentioned Enzo. I don't think Chelsea is letting go of Enzo anytime soon as well. And so I know Fede Valverde is taking on his number 8 shirt next season, and Fede Valverde is a very effective midfielder as well. They have the likes of Bellingham, Chouameni, Kamavinga. These are players that you can deploy in different tactical areas in midfield, not giving you the exact replica of Tony Cruz, but obviously doing a decent enough job that the team needs. They have also the likes of Ada Gola coming up, developing into the team. Modric is still there to try and coach a few of these young talents as well. So I know that this team is most likely not going to miss him in terms of performances and output, but obviously in terms of his specific quality in on the field is going to be missed sorely. Um,
yeah, definitely.
Yesterday Vinicius Jr put up another another solid performance. In the second half, when Madrid started looking threatening, it was through his side of the wing when he was now isolating defenders, taking 1v1 situations, driving pacey into the box, trying a few things here and there. And he also got the fans like backing them because it was his actions that sort of provided some sort of entertainment, riled up the fans a little bit, and said, "Yeah, this is probably the Madrid we are looking for in the second half." And he ended up with a goal, assisted by Jude Bellingham as well. What is your thoughts on that performance? Because I think throughout this Champions League campaign, he's been very, very phenomenal.
I think I think Vinicius Jr. is a wonderful player. I'm one of those who sings his praises a lot. But I think
Yeah,
he understands football. Football is entertainment, is to entertain, and as a Brazilian, I think he really understands that and he brings that to the pitch. Also, he's daring. I don't know the number of wingers that we have in this world, who when they have the ball, they're always looking to turn and pass. Like there's this meme where you see like modern wingers get the ball, turn, pass, and like people like Jack Grealish, right? Like
Anthony
who
Grealish. Yeah,
like to ball, like they check the moment. Is there a good time to take this person on or not? Vinicius Jr. is already thinking how to beat the player before he gets the ball. So he doesn't get the ball and now think.
Yeah,
So because for most wingers, they get the ball, they look at the player and think, okay, he has a good stance here. Well, I'm going to recycle the ball. He has
yeah,
already seen you, thought about what he's going to do. So immediately he gets the ball, you are maybe preparing to come up to Vinicius and like say, let's battle. No, no,
he's
no.
done.
He's already gone. Either he has pushed the ball, used his quick feet to draw you in so that he beats you, and then already pacing. So that's why you see many
Yeah,
videos of him. The ball comes, then in just like a flash, he's away from the player, and you're like, "What happened?" And they slow down the game, and you
yeah,
realize that it's movement of feet. He's already
yeah,
read the pass. He's already read the
yeah,
gameplay, and he's always trying to beat the defender. So immediately he gets the ball. He's not giving you time to rest and assess and read the situation. He's on the front
yeah.
foot, all of it. And he's quick. He's quick and strong. So if on his
See,
day, it's just so hard to stop him. I don't see a lot of people who do that in this world of football currently. So I think he's a very, very special player.
you
And
know,
obviously his end product improving also helps.
yeah, yeah. Um, you look at the way in which he's able to switch up pace, just switch direction so fast, so quick. And I think yesterday he did it at one point in the second half, and it was just like too difficult for the defenders to even notice when that happened and to cope with it. The only player I see with those qualities, and this is a far fetched comparison, but I see this player in very young Vinicius Jr. when he came to Real Madrid when he was wasting chances. It's probably Alejandro Garnacho. But the problem with him is that the club he finds himself in and the likely coaching that he's going to get might not be of the quality that Carlo Ancelotti is providing for Vinicius, widening his capacity, his confidence, giving him much more freedom as well. Because if you look at Garnacho, he's the one player who maybe his skill and technical ability is not up to the level of Vinicius, but he's a very direct winger. He doesn't care. He dares to
Yeah.
dream, just run at you, shoot, whatever it is. And so people have made claims that Garnacho might move to Real Madrid or might move clubs for a big move like soon. I think he's one of those people who'd really benefit from the kind of development that the likes of Vinicius have got, and he would be a wonderful player as well. Um, Still, the Ballon d'Or debate is on. Hopefully, the Euros would help settle it clearly. But for Vinicius Jr., there is the Euros and the Copa America as well. So let's see which of them go his way. Um,
Yeah. So I mean,
I mean, the
England, England.
yeah, go ahead,
I
go
don't know
ahead.
if it's a point because England is playing in the Euros and they have a good chance of winning. Looking at the squad this year,
Yeah,
Brazil also has a very, very good chance of winning. But I would say Argentina is still the better team on the continent, given that I think they are missing Neymar. And I think if you look at within the English media, especially with Hurricane leaving the competition, a lot of England's prospects is rested on the shoulders of Bellingham and Foden. So
Bellingham.
I
Yeah,
think if England go ahead to win the trophy, then there is no debate there. It might go to Bellingham. But I think that Vinicius Jr. Like he probably deserves it just slightly more. But hopefully, if he can also win
yeah,
the Copa America, I think then he
yeah,
definitely gets the shot. Yeah, because scoring a goal in the final,
yeah,
this
yeah.
the second is that's excellent. Yesterday he
It's
had generally a
insane.
better game than Bellingham. Bellingham
Yeah,
looked a bit like yeah, finally was catching up. The occasion was catching up to him, but he still did provide an assist, so you can't take that away from
yeah.
him.
I mean, talking of Bellingham as well. I was trying to just look at his sort of deployment in the last games leading up to the Champions League final. And even yesterday, paying much more keen attention to the way in which he was being deployed. And if you look at the first half, he was more of a defensive person than an offensive person. He wasn't moving forward, he wasn't running out, making the runs. And because he's the person who tends to look like the focal point around the attack because the way in which Madrid is set up now with a diamond midfield with him at the top and then the two wide forwards. What happens when he is being defensive is that then Madrid lacks a focal point around which the attack is built. And that's how come the opposition two center backs are now free with nobody occupying them. They can deploy. That's how come Matson can push up and he's fine because the two center backs they are not occupied by anyone
Mhm.
significant. But then if you look at those things, and I watched an interview he had afterwards, it's more of deliberate deployment by the manager rather than he himself not having a good game. And I think there's this trap we fall into about the expectation from a player and the way in which we evaluate their game. So if Vinicius has a good defensive game, I don't think anybody would say Vinicius had a good game. If he has
Yeah.
one brilliant offensive moment, was a wonderful goal, we would say Vinicius has a good game. Even if in those other games where he never had a wonderful offensive moment, probably put in a lot of defensive shift to keep his team in the game.
Yeah.
And I think that's the kind of thing that Vinicius has, Bellingham has been asked to do time and time again in some of these big games, putting in a much more defensive shift. And looking at how versatile he is, he can't play as a DM, he can't play as a box to box six and eight, a 10, with the way in which Ancelotti has deployed him a lot of the time in La Liga this season. And in this final, he's been more deployed as a box to box defensive eight, not necessarily the six, but very defensive, also helping in defensive action on the wing where Vinicius was operating as well. And so I look at that and I see it as more of being tactically disciplined rather than having a bad game in terms of attacking numbers. If you look at the City game, for instance, he was being asked to play as a false nine, and he clearly said he hated it. He didn't like playing as a false nine because he doesn't know what to do there. It's a thing that he does once in a while, and it's irritating. It's annoying. When he's in midfield, he has more space, more freedom. He runs into spaces. He arrives late in the box, and that's the fun he has. But if he's a false nine, he has to people have to play off of him rather than him driving balls towards the defensive line. And eventually, I'm getting to understand that some of these players probably have different tactical deployments in big games that may escape us in the way in which we evaluate their game as well. But I think overall, like you said, he still came away with an assist. And clearly, you could see once the game loosened up for them after the first game, he was much more front footed in there in the spaces and much more offensive as well. So I think he had a good game. I don't think he had a better game than Vinicius in terms of the contributions, but obviously, I think his contribution in the team as well was really, really massive in the match.
Yeah, I'll not put down his contributions in the team. I think generally, like, there's there wasn't a lot of standout performances. Yes, in yesterday's final. I think my general assessment of the final is it's not the like. I mean, it's done. Let's move on. It's not. It was not the
Yeah,
most
it's not the
exciting
most
final
electric. Yeah,
because like we didn't have a lot of standout performances, big moments, and I'm not judging him based on what he did throughout the game because I think defensively he was solid in pressing. He was leading the press for most times. To be fair, someone like Rodrigo almost got missing in the whole game. So
yeah.
it just tells you
Rodrigo
that
was the one who vanished a lot.
yeah. So it just tells you that it's fine. That what I reference to when I say I don't think he had as good a game was the chances he had. Like there was this cross from Vinicius Jr.
Yeah,
for which he
yeah,
was put. Yes, he lacked a bit of conviction,
yeah,
even though
yeah.
he made a bit of conviction in meeting the
He
ball.
wasn't
There
convinced
was
about it. Yeah,
there was a chance where he was put through by Vinicius Jr. and he puts the chance wide. You see, like if you want to win the
yeah.
Ballon d'Or, these are your moments. You put the chance away
Finish
confidently
those.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So if you don't scuffing the ball, things like that, it just looks like you are not in your rhythm because we know a very, very confident Jude Bellingham would be doing a lot of driving, running with the ball, things like that. We didn't see a lot
yeah,
from him taking on. Maybe yeah, we are not sure of the tactical instruction, and eventually his team won. But I did feel that on the night he was a bit burdened
yeah.
by the occasion.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Actually, like, I mean, he felt very emotional about it as well. And for him, it's a very significant feat because, Like that's his first time. And you look, we talk about Real Madrid as an institution winning it 6 times, but for him as a person, that's his first Champions League medal and his first Champions League trophy. So obviously the emotion, the occasion, definitely he'll grow into the season and the game as well. But finally, let's cap it off with Carlo Ancelotti. He now has 5 Champions League trophies. The next manager who has the most is 3. Pep Guardiola, um, I think Zidane as well. I don't know about Mourinho. I think Mourinho as well. But like the next in line is 3, and Carlo Ancelotti has 5. And to think that 3 years ago he was managing Everton, and that 2 out of 3 seasons that he's managed Real Madrid, after that Everton gig, he's won 2 Champions Leagues, and he's won the La Liga as well this season. Like I don't know. They say managers have bad spells and bounce back. This one seems too good to be true of the caliber of manager that he is. Like, what do you see? And we'll probably have a discussion much more in depth about him on another episode. But what do you see in terms of the way in which he utilizes talent and his aura around the team as well?
Yeah, I think Ancelotti the mentality he has is crazy. Like it's easy to see him as this calms and but he's very very focused. He's super focused. He doesn't get swayed by emotions a lot. And when you
Yeah,
see people like that, there are people who put in a lot of work behind the scenes, and there are people who have a
yeah,
lot of confidence in themselves. So I think
yeah,
before the Everton job, he I think he'd coached around, like I've forgotten the clubs that he went to, but he
yeah,
went all around. He's gone all around. Even I think he was at Madrid and later on sacked and things like that. So I think he's just the
yeah,
kind of coach that wants to coach. He always just wants to coach,
yeah,
and every time that he goes, he improves the players because he's very good at connecting with the players, identifying their strengths, and then creating a plan to
yeah,
use effectively. This season, Madrid has not been spectacular. Even this final typifies their season. They've not been
yeah,
exceptional in terms of the kind of football they play and things like that, but they've always done the job. They've always done the job, and
yeah,
I think that's where his talent is. It's in understanding the tools that he has and then using it to work, which is the most ideal setting for Real Madrid. So I think he deserves his flowers because he's
yeah,
also been around for a long while now. He's been coaching for I think over 20 years now, with AC Milan
yeah,
previously in the 2000s. So he's not a small boy, I would say. So I think over the years he's gathered a lot of experience. He's seen things. He's
yeah,
seen, and when you're a coach who have seen things, like for example, if I admire Kaka and you coached Kaka and you made Kaka, I will give you everything. And I think that's what
yeah, yeah,
he's
yeah,
getting
yeah,
over
yeah,
there. And I think he's
yeah.
quite good
I
at
mean,
also reading the game, making changes and all of that.
yeah. Two statistics that will blow your mind though, because we talk about Real Madrid not having like the best of seasons, but in the Champions League this season, they've only
Mm.
been behind 7% of their entire game time. So out of 1,290 minutes that they've played, they've only been behind for 90 minutes. That's insane statistic.
Wow,
More impressively, they
that's
went their
crazy.
entire campaign without losing a game this Champions League season.
Yes,
The
they only.
entire campaign without losing a
Oh
game.
yeah,
And the entire season, Madrid has
yeah.
only lost 3 games in the entire season. This is the team we are saying has not been impressive,
No,
right? Like,
they
this is the team. The
and
underlying
they.
stats just doesn't support that narrative.
Yeah, so because I think we are in an era where we want to see, like, when we talk about teams dominating, we like to think about a lot of things, including the style of play, who are the specific
Yeah,
individuals standing out, what stories are accompanying, no stories.
yeah,
Like, I mean, yeah, some nice stories, but even the individuals, Vinicius Jr. has 24 goals the whole season. Jude Bellingham
yeah,
has 23 or 22.
yeah,
So who is the standout player who is like carrying the team or whatever? So like it doesn't, because we are used to like maybe the 2009 Barcelona coming through, just knocking
Yeah,
everyone. BBC with Ronaldo and Bale and
yeah,
Benzema coming through, destroying everyone. Like Tuchel maybe coming through that season with some mad three at the back formation that no one could crack. So we like to think
yeah,
about those things. A team like Leverkusen, like that's what we talk about.
yeah,
They've not had kind of season like it goes under the radar when you talk about their unbeaten run and things like that, which maybe tells you how good they are. Because this season was seen as a transition season.
yeah.
Because after last we didn't win, Benzema
Exactly.
left, Courtois go ahead. So they
Yeah,
were like, yeah, let's manage and let's see. And then they happened to have such a
yeah.
spectacular season. I think take nothing away from them because some of these guys over there, Caballero has been hugging that line for over 10 years, 15 years. Like,
Like, pro.
there's that nothing to coach out of him. He just does his job. He's a professional. Toni Kroos, same.
Yeah. Let me read a meme I found on social media about Carlo Ancelotti, and then we'll just have a final say about Thibaut Courtois, and we'll wrap up. So it says that football is a simple game. 22 men chase a ball for 90 minutes, and in the end, Carlo Ancelotti raises an eyebrow, and Real Madrid win another Champions League. so so basically, they just need Carlo on the touchline to raise an eyebrow. That guy is just super cold and chill. Nothing
Yeah,
phases him. Like in the second El Clasic, the last El Clasico of the season, when Bellingham scored the last minute winner, everybody was running riots. The man just turned around and put his hand in his pocket and started walking down the tunnel.
that's
Like,
even in this final,
who?
when he
Yeah,
scored the first goal, he just turned
he was
around, put his hand
unfazed.
in. He
Christ.
knows the job
But
is
yeah,
not done.
finally, there was
Like,
a storyline around Thibaut Courtois. This was his first start in the Champions League this season, obviously after suffering several injuries. Thierry Henry refers to him the best goalkeeper in the world, quote unquote the most complete goalkeeper in the world in terms of all abilities combined. He put up a superb performance as well. I mean, he kept Madrid in the game in the first half with some of the saves that he made. Even with that chance with Adeyemi, I would say like his positioning forcing him to play that ball a little wider than he probably would love to play it, which made it hit the post as well. I think that's an impressive performance, winning man of the match in the final against Liverpool. And he's one of the players who's gone through a lot, like in terms of the stories around him, his career ups and downs, and to see that now he misses the entire season, comes, plays 4 games, and puts up this performance in a Champions League final. Obviously, that's like very very spectacular as well. And Lunin wasn't feeling well, and so if you look at the likes of Courtois and he wasn't up to the pedigree that he was up to last night, Madrid would be in trouble, right? So I don't know what you think about his performance as well, but I think it was a really, really impressive performance from him.
yeah, I think there was no doubt. Like, even with Lunin fit, there was still conversation that Courtois should be the one in goal.
Yeah,
So, yeah, I don't think they had to downgrade or they had anything to fear. I think it was sort of a relief that maybe, if I could call it, not that Lunin was ill, but that they didn't have to make that choice. That's what it felt
yeah.
like. And I think he delivered. Like, I don't like to give him too much credit because he's a snake. As a former Chelsea fan, he
Yeah, yeah,
invested
yeah,
so
yeah,
much,
yeah. I mean, for you and your
created
Chelsea
that.
history.
No, but beyond that, I think he put in a solid performance. But let's be frank, he wasn't like he looked like he was a bit bored in goal because Dortmund just kept moving it around, passing it around. Like they weren't shooting, they
Yeah,
weren't being challenging with the shots.
yeah.
And the few times he had to come out, we know Courtois. Like it takes
Yeah.
a lot to
Takes
beat
a lot
him.
to beat him. Like,
A lot to beat
takes
him.
a lot
Because
to
even when
beat
he was
him.
at Chelsea, even when he was at Atletico, like
Yeah.
before he came to Chelsea, and even as a Chelsea player, um, you could see it. Like he's tall, he's quick. Like
Very.
it takes a lot to beat him. So
Yeah.
one-on-one chances, you are not going to beat him easily. So for me, I don't think even Dortmund put in that kind of performance that will get him to now start
Yeah,
or to now start. Um,
yeah.
but very good performance from him, I would say.
I mean, eventually the Dortmund performance just reminded me of the Man City second leg, and that's why I wrote on my status that like nobody knocks the ball around better than City did in that second leg, and it didn't end them
Mm.
anywhere. So Dortmund just doing that knock from one end of the pitch to the other, and then knock back as if they are counting angles on the pitch. It's not going to end you anywhere, and eventually the results just proved right. Real Madrid punished them for just knocking the ball around as well. So yeah, I mean, this has been a good discussion on the Champions League final. Real Madrid are eventually 15-time champions. Incredible, incredible. Yes.
They are
Um,
chasing the
yeah, and this what's his name? The eventual boss. I forgot
Fiorentino
his name.
Perez.
Yeah, Fiorentino Perez was asked what is his feeling about this one, and then he was like, "Oh yeah, they are looking forward to the next 16. Should be here soon." And I'm like, just chillax, guys. Who are you
We should
chasing?
ban them so that like we are let others compete for a
They
while. Then
should
they come
they should
back.
just choose to opt out of the competition. Because what is this?
I mean, I
But
hope with the new format, we can have some a bit more.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
because I'd have really loved to see Dortmund win it to just bring a change in there, but
yeah.
Real Madrid won. We won. They
I
said the
mean,
best kind
yeah,
of victory. The best kind of victory is the boring victory. Is the one that
true, true.
is the best kind because like when
I
you
mean,
win and now it's bored. That's when you know
yeah.
you are really
In the review, I said that like I know Champions League stories usually favor the underdogs, but Real Madrid is the only team I see go into a Champions League final and clearly put underdogs in their place. Like they don't care whether the story doesn't favor them, whether the narratives of football is against. They don't care. They would beat you and feel like the top dogs, and it's boring. Like, yeah, for me, I likened it to Arsenal fans thinking that they were going to win on the final day of the EPL, but we can move on. We can move on in life. Sure. Thanks everyone for listening in on this discussion on the UCL final. Look forward to more episodes on the beer parlor, especially with the transfer window coming up as well. We'll definitely have much more in-depth discussions, review some transfer news, and also profile certain teams leading up to the start of next season. But see you on the next one. Enjoy the rest of especially to Real Madrid fans, enjoy your 15 because we are tired of you guys. Bye, guys, and see you on the next one.